Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning to everyone who has joined us today. Thank you for being here for our joint webinar with Ericsson around building SOHO and SME revenues through richer communications. We will touch upon in our presentation some of the challenges that SOHOs and SMEs face and explore what the telco opportunity is in this key segment and why we think the time is especially key now. And we'll also touch upon what telcos can do to succeed and win in this space. My name is Yasmin. I work for STL Partners, and I will be moderating today's session. So first, before we jump in, I'd just like to cover a few housekeeping things. So everyone is in listen-only mode, but if you are having any issues with audio, please leave a comment in the questions tab, and one of our team members will assist you there. We also have a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to submit any questions for our presenters throughout the session, whether that be to specific presenters or a general question. But again, please use the questions tab for that. So everyone in this session who is registered for the session will receive a copy of the slides and the recording shortly after to watch back and to share with colleagues. The other thing you will be receiving as well in due time is a copy of the write-up of the Q&A session. This includes some questions that we will not be able to get to during the session due to time, but you will be receiving that too. If you are active on social media, please feel free to tweet us at STL Partners and also at Ericsson Digital. So for today's session, we have two presentations lined up. So as I mentioned, myself, we have Yasmin, we have our very own, our own Chris Baraklov, and we also have two presenters from Ericsson Digital Services. We have Bika Singhal, and we also have Abby Seth. So just to introduce our presenters for today, Chris is one of our partners here at STL and has over 25 years of experience in strategy and business, 18 of which are in the TMT sector, working for operators such as Verizon Business and Orange. We also have Vikas here, who is a strategic product manager for enterprise and IoT communication solutions at Ericsson. And his present focus is on the Ericsson Communication Accelerator services and solutions for CSPs to enable them to quickly offer enhanced new services towards their business and enterprise customers. And he himself has 20+ years of global experience in commercial products management and business and strategy consulting within the telecoms domain. And last but not least, we have Abby, who works within the business area digital services at Ericsson, focusing on enterprise and IoT communications. In his previous role as ICT architect, he had traveled extensively showcasing demo solutions and also enabling customer engagements for communication services. So without further ado, I will hand over the presentation to Chris.
Thanks, Yasmin. So I'll be focusing a little bit on the problem or the opportunity, and I guess there's pretty much a leading question here: SOHOs and SMEs, an untapped market opportunity for operators. When I worked at Verizon Business and at Orange 10 years ago, I felt that was the same issue, and I think it remains an opportunity for operators to do and be more for their smaller enterprise customers. I'll focus on real data, so I'll look at some research that's been done across several countries and several thousand SOHO and SME customers, SOHO being small office, home office, SMEs obviously small, medium-sized enterprises. And I'll really focus on what they are looking for in terms of technology solutions, some of the problems and challenges they face in deploying technology and meeting their business needs. And then I'll hand over to my illustrious colleagues at Ericsson, who will then have the more difficult job of answering how to go about addressing that opportunity. So I guess to sum up, perhaps a little simplistically, the problem facing an operator in serving SOHOs and SMEs, clearly they have different and they're quite a heterogeneous group, but overall, they're still businesses and they're still competing either nationally or internationally with other companies of all sorts of sizes. So their needs in terms of their business problems and how they're seeking to address those and the communications and technology solutions they're looking for are not dissimilar to some of the larger corporates. They may be less complex, but they're not dissimilar. However, the challenge we have as operators, not just operators, other technology providers, is that in many ways their purchasing power is not too dissimilar to high-end consumers. So it is quite difficult to meet the needs of these customers profitably. And that's the conundrum, I think, facing operators today, and has been one certainly when I was looking at the small and medium-sized enterprises 10 years ago at Orange and before that at Verizon Business. Just worth spending a moment, and this is the European Union, so it doesn't represent every market, but I think it's probably not too dissimilar to other markets. If you look at the number of enterprises, it's clearly hugely dominated by SMEs, particularly those micro businesses up to 10 employees. And that's probably even more skewed in some markets which have a wide fabric of small one-man, two-person organizations. If you then translate that into number of employees, unsurprisingly, the large enterprises with 250 or more make up about a third, but still 2/3 of employees are found within businesses up to 250. And this is the really interesting thing, I think. If you then look at the economic value add, they still account, SMEs and SOHOs, for over 55%, 56% in the EU of economic value add. Now, you know, it will not be lost on you, I'm sure, that clearly the larger enterprises make up a third of employees, but their economic value add is 44%. In other words, you see greater productivity at larger organizations. Output, economic output from employees at larger organizations is bigger. And that is because larger organizations enjoy increasing returns to scale in most industries. And to put that in perspective, if you actually look at what that really looks like and index it, the medium, small and micro businesses relative to large businesses, the micro businesses below 10 employees, per employee productivity is about half that you get in large enterprises. And there's a pretty clear linear relationship. And you know that is, so as you get bigger, you get more productive. And that's because the processes, you know, you get market forces, all sorts of things. But the challenge facing medium, small and micro businesses is one of productivity and of getting returns on their efforts. And that really translates into a stressed financial position. Many small businesses are on a knife edge when it comes to their financial performance. And it is something that small business owners you speak to in focus groups, you run quant surveys time and time again, you hear that their biggest thing keeping them awake is not just whether they're going to hit budget next year, which is often a large business problem, but whether they're going to survive next year. And the response to that for more than half of the business that was surveyed across 12 countries, about 3,000 SMEs, is that over half of them are doing one of two things. They're either seeking to increase productivity and operational efficiency, in other words, cut costs, or they're seeking within their existing market, both geographically and in terms of the products they serve, to grow their market share through improved customer experience. There's a smaller segment, about 17, who think they can maintain what they're doing, and some others are looking at M&A or expanding internationally or expanding domestically into new markets. But for the vast majority, it's about doing what they're currently doing better through cost cutting or improved customer experience. So if we kind of, oh, my bad, I've gone forward too far. So I think, you know, historically, we've always felt within the telecoms industry that that small and medium-sized enterprises are, to some extent, technology Luddites. They are often unwilling to accept new technologies. And I think what's been quite interesting is that more recent research, and this was done in 2019, actually, in terms of what they are looking to do to address their commercial challenges, applying the latest technology was cited as a top response in 3/4 of those SMEs. And that was more than any other action they were looking to take. So I think there has been a shift. As we've seen the internet, we've seen cloud solutions, we've seen more internet-based solutions come online, software and so on, that more and more SMEs are seeing the value of applying technology in order to be able to compete effectively. So I kind of begs the question, well, what sort of technology are they looking for? And this survey looked at a number of different technology solutions that were available, or that SMEs might look to implement in terms of improving their technology. And unsurprisingly, productivity tools, they are relatively unproductive compared to larger organizations, came out top. But just behind that, 2/3 cited fast, reliable communication systems. Now, this is quite surprising. You'd think comms would be something that we've been enjoying. Fixed telephony for 150 years, mobile telephony for certainly 25 years in many markets, and yet still they see this as an area they need to improve. And then there's a long tail of other things that are equally important, and many of which of those may also be relevant to operators. But I found that quite interesting, that comms itself, our core business within telecoms, is seen as a core area where these guys are looking to improve their technology. And when it comes to what they are looking for in terms of implementing technology, it's worth reminding ourselves the situation that most small businesses find. They don't have the resources, the specialist technical or procurement resources available. They're often, everybody is a operational person doing and working in the business rather than a support function working on the business. They are highly time constrained, and they are heavily budget constrained, owing to the fact that they have typically are financially stretched as a group. And that then has implications for how they think about implementing technology and what they are looking for in a technology solution and in a technology provider. And in this survey, what came out very clearly is a whole raft of the fact, unsurprisingly, they are looking for something that is easy to use, simple and quick to set up, simple to maintain, inevitably price is always there or thereabouts. But this is really, really interesting because they don't have as much time as larger corporates to evaluate technology solution. They are looking at a trusted vendor. And if you, again, look at brands globally and nationally, you'll find time and time again that telcos come up as highly trusted brands, typically alongside banks in terms of the way they are seen. So telcos have a great opportunity to offer solutions. Clearly have a particularly strong opportunity to offer communication solutions. So I guess, what does this really mean for telcos? I guess I would summarize before I hand over to the Ericsson folks by saying SOHOs and SMEs are economically important in every market. EU is no exception, and in your market they will be too. They are typically, not in all cases clearly, but typically as a group, they are under relatively severe financial pressure, and that is keeping them awake. They are looking to grow their profits both through increased efficiency and improving the customer experience, so looking to cut costs and grow the top line. They are, I think, as opposed to where we might have felt they were 5 or 10 years ago, they are increasingly willing to adopt technology as a way of realizing growth. And they are heavily time and budget constrained. Now, that has specific implications for communications provider. And we would suggest that the ability to offer simple, managed solutions, targeted solutions to them is important. The ability to offer a cloud model, an as-a-service model that enables them to scale up and scale down their communications easily, not being locked in to a fixed contract in any way, is important. The ability to offer something where they can try services before they commit to them, or a freemium model where they're introduced to something and then they pay, as we see time and time again on internet services, for additional services, and they get upsold, is important. And finally, in terms of the way to position communication services, it's important to create and market them in terms of either driving efficiency and or delivering growth for operators. So that would be our kind of summary as to the kind of problem and opportunity facing telcos and what communication providers might look to do in order to meet those needs. And now what I'm going to do before I hand over to Vikas is to run a very quick poll with you where we'd like you, and this is entirely anonymous, so it won't be attributed to your organization. We'd like to understand a little bit collectively as a group, which of the following best describes your organization's attitudes towards SOHOs and SMEs. You should find appearing on your screen, it'll pop in a minute. Here we go. The alternatives available to you. You can just click on the button on the left. So is it little specific focus? We tend to offer them at the bottom end consumer solutions, at the top end they get the corporate solutions. As a discrete segment, we don't tend to offer them much for themselves. Do we consider it tough? We do tailor stuff for SOHOs and SMEs, but it's hard to do that profitably. There's something you are increasingly seeing as an important segment, growing in importance. You're forecasting fast growth for this segment over the next sort of 2 to 3 years. Or do you think you're doing a pretty good job? It's a cash cow. We're already serving them extremely well, and there's not a lot extra we can do. I'm sure there are alternative answers, but hopefully there's one of those you can pick that best describes your view on the opportunity and the attitude of your organization. So I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but when we're ready, we can show you the results of that. Okay, so I mean, reasonably wide. So there's somebody out there, and we'd love to hear from you, who believes that you're doing a great job. They're a cash cow, and you're serving them well. And I think love to talk to you, understand what you're doing, and get an idea, because there may be a case study there, or you should be appearing on a webinar like this to talk about your experiences. And the rest, we've got a range of views. 20% little focus. We either give them consumer or corporate solutions. Roughly a quarter, we try and tailor, but it's difficult to do profitably. And then about half of you are saying, look, we are forecasting growth here, so it is of importance to us. Well, hopefully what Vikas and Abe are going to talk about will appeal to all of you, including, I hope, the 4%, but interesting to get the perspective of where you as a group sit. So shall I hand now directly over to Vikas to pick up the story?
Thanks, Chris, and that was very informative. And especially when we say about the focus on the communication aspect, and also focus on what they are looking for. They are also providing a communication focus, and they are providing the customer experience for their. Sorry, I'm trying to move the slide. Sorry about this glitch, but I'm trying to move this. Yes, thanks. So let's see how communication service can provide some better experience to them, or how they can help to SMEs for this. If you see that almost 80% of the calls are unanswered, basically, and that's kind of a lost business to them. 85% of the calls that are not answered they will not going to call back. So basically, especially these is a kind of a lost opportunity for these customers. And the key is never miss a customer call. When we are saying call, it's not mean the voice call only, it means customer contact. Wherever, whichever medium customer is trying to contact you, you should be able to answer them, respond to them. If you're not, then you SMEs and SOHOs, they will be losing their opportunity. And it's almost 22% of lost business for them. From, as the Chris shows earlier, from the business user side or the end user side, customer experience is very important. They are looking how easily they can use the services provided by the telco operators. Also, how it's easy to set up. Can I do it myself? Can I have to do something else? But customer experience is key. And because of this, there is also some issues from the service providers or the operator side. Almost, if you see, 50 to 80% of SOHO and small businesses are not on the business plans. They are mainly on the consumer plans. If we talk to most of the service providers, they generally say, oh, SOHO or a small SME or these SOHO ARPU is almost same as consumer ARPU. It's because it's really hard to provide them the more value. They are not seeing much value that is being provided to them. That's why they are on the consumer plans, or operators are trying hard to move them to business plans and get more value out of this. So what can be the solution? This is a problem we mentioned. So what can be the solution? Provide the enriched communication. Provide the enriched communication, like how we can address this problem is, and enriched communication means what all new features, vital important features that can be provided to them. They are not looking the whole kind of fancy stuff. Their main focus is on their businesses. So focus is what they need. Can you provide it in a modular way to them? And most importantly, improve customer experience. How it is being provided, how you are selling it to them is, especially when you're trying to target the small and SME and SOHO segment, you have to use your own digital channel, like your websites, your kiosks, your retail shops. Can you use that retail channels and provide them the value? Can they buy it through that? How you can provide more automation to these aspects? Can they just go in the website, select the plans, buy it, configure it, and start using it basically? Once you are able to provide this, this will be lead to incremental value that you can get from your SOHO and SME customers basically. How we can do it basically? So we will show you a demo. And when we say the incremental value, it's not only in terms of ARPU increase, it's basically how much extra you can charge from them, how you can reduce your churn, how you can acquire more customers, and is the slide moving, sir? Yes, sorry about, yeah. So sorry about this slide glitch. So it's what we mean by enriched communication is for SOHO. First, provide them something so they never miss any customer call or contact. Second is they should be perceived as a credible business, what they can do. Especially different countries have different rules, like somebody must have mobile number, somebody fix. Increase responsiveness. Whenever a customer is contacting them, can they provide more response to them? And can they provide better customer experience to their own customers? Better customer experience. And then we are showing a kind of, a demo video for this. Key thing here is easy onboarding and self-service management from the cloud platform, cloud as a service. Because if you are unable to board them easily, if they are unable to do self-service, it will be a problem to them. Even the automation part of integrating with the eSIM and other upcoming technology will be great initiatives, basically. Yeah. So let's go through the demo. We will show the video, and it's me, myself, and Abhay who are presenting it. So let's see the demo, and we go in more details then.
So let's go through the business communication use case for Ericsson Communication Accelerator, focusing on micro business segment, which is 1 to 10 or 15 employees. Operators' problem right now is most of these customers are in consumer plans, almost ranging from 50 to 80% of the users. They are on consumer plans, and it's hard for operators to offer their existing UC or PBX kind of services to these segments. These segments have their needs, but they are not looking for the full-fledged UC system. So here we are adding additional services through Communication Accelerator to motivate them to, and also to give them the value to move towards the business plans, and it became a complete service. So my colleague Abhay will tell the demo, explain the demo setup.
So this is a small web design company which has a smart speaker as a company device, and we have 2 employees with 2 phones, and one of the employees has a multi-device, so he's also logged in with a smart watch. And also these have multi-persona lines in them. That means they can differentiate between private and company lines. So let's see what happens when you make a call. So as you can see, when he wants to reach the employees, it rings on both the phones and also on the watch. And on the phones, you can see that the call is coming to the company line. So it's very easy for them to differentiate which line it is coming from.
And this demo is also integrated with a smart speaker, and there we also have B2c Contextual Communication. So it's a whole suite of mapping the micro business segment needs, which operators can provide to their existing customers.
So now I want to call out the customer because I know him now. So I can choose which persona I want to call him from. I can either choose the company line or the private line. So let's call him on the company line first. So if I make a call from my company line,
and I get a call showing that a Wally company is calling me.
Now if I want to call out the customer from my private line, I can change my line to the private one, and I make a call again.
So now I get a call showing that Wally Private is calling me right now.
So you can choose which persona you want to call out from, and which is very good. So you can keep your private and your company persona separate.
So let's look into the case of the call enhancement for B2C calling. So as a customer, I am making a call.
Welcome to Weber. Please choose from the following options. For sale, press 1. For support, press 2.
I didn't choose anybody because I don't know. Now the call will go to a smart speaker.
Welcome to Weber. Please hold, we're connecting your call. Please hold, we're connecting your call.
Alexa, pick up the call. So now we are on the call with the smart speaker and the customer.
And as a customer, I have some queries about the services, about what I can do, and about the different templates available for my needs. And in the same call, Weber employee can explain it to me by enriching the call. And they are showing it through the WebRTC, and what they are sharing, it's coming on my screen here. So it's the same call enriched further. So it's a complete micro business solution from B2B calling and B2C contextual communication calls. So in this case, the Weber company also has a business voicemail that's coming from Ericsson Communication Accelerator. And in business voicemail, each of the employee can have their individual mail and also a group mail. And this is integrated with a smart speaker. So let's see this.
Alexa, open Ericsson's voicemail.
Hello, Weber. You have one new message and 4 saved messages, as well as an operator message. The first message is,
so this is a business voicemail integrated with a smart speaker.
So this was a demo. This was showing a lot of different things, basically. We are showing smart B2C calling. We were showing the key vital features that are needed. In this integrated demo, they were and all these are modular basically. But the key thing here is when you want to provide these services, what there must be how you can provide it better, how you can how you can provide it better. Here, another thing is, in the previous demo, we chose very light application that will be used by the small and micro segment. But if somebody is using SME and large customer, what the customer experience we provide, customers need as much native calling as possible. So if they are using some kind of unified communication or UCAS kind of service, they don't need to add an app to make a call. Can they make a normal call without opening an app, and that too is still a good quality call? So their status, present status, can be shared to the system where your colleagues know, yes, I'm available or I'm busy on the call. You can use your natively on phone all your phone features or your corporate features even while you're roaming abroad. And there is a possibility to enhance services, like if I want to move my corporate call or this phone call to my smartwatch or tablet seamlessly, or if I am having multiple identities, and that's coming up. So power of IMS that is being providing it right now. So I can have multiple identities. So if I'm making a personal call, it should not go through the system. But if I am making a business call, then only my presence is shared basically. And for the improved customer experience, self-service is very important. How you can provide it, how you can move it, how you can sell it service. So it's basically customers can seamlessly go in operator's website, they answer it, they select the plans, they select the plans, they select whatever I need, they offer it, they offer the service, and then if these customers are not your customer, then through automation you should be able to get them live, or through eSIM you can provide them the services at the same time basically. Change slide please. Yeah, you can move. Yeah, let's thanks. Yeah, so it's basically self-service, onboard and configure, and then again if we change the slide, through this self-service and automation, customer one is start using it, and then they will continue the same process basically. By providing this, in the next slide, we see that by providing this, we can provide enriched communication to SOHOs as SMEs. We provide improved customer experience, and then the incremental value that service providers can get, especially in the Western Europe, let's say 7 to 15 euros per user per month. And when we are saying increased value, it means through reduction in churn, you acquire new customer, you put them in a mobile plan, business plans, and you get more value, total value out of this. Now we have a poll question in the next slide. And the poll question is, what impact could enriched communication and improved customer experience that we have shown or that we discussed so far will have on your SOHO and SME revenue? Will there be impact, no impact, or what's the increase in impact? So if you can please answer, and then we discuss it. So the answers start coming. So please fill your answer, and let's see what's the attendees' view on this. Will there see any change or no? So we are getting more answers now. Let's quickly wait for the result, what the feeling is. Yeah.
So we can see that between 5 to 10% increase gets the maximum votes. Using enriched communications, they feel that will impact. And then again, The second highest is actually greater than 20% increase, which is actually very good. And because this is in line with what we've also spoken to some of the operators in Europe, correct?
Yes, and it's the key here is how you market the service, how you provide the whole value of it. But how you can provide, my colleague Abhay will tell. Let's Abhay tell, please.
Thank you. So we go to the next slide. So in order to achieve this, we believe that a cloud-based service offering that utilizes the existing network assets is the key, so that you can bring new and advanced business communication services to your market in a quick and easy way. As we all know, a cloud-based offering comes with many benefits, and some of the most important ones are quick time to market, convenience and ease of use through self-service and automation, excellent user experience, and the ability to offer this to your customers in a try and buy fashion. So if we go to the next slide. So keeping that in mind, we at Ericsson have launched our cloud-based multi-service offering called Ericsson Communication Accelerator, which is designed specifically for service providers and their customers. So it is built on a microservice-based architecture and gives service providers the possibility to extend their existing IP communication network with an ecosystem of partner capabilities that increase the value of this existing network while introducing faster innovations with minimum complexity. So we already have a tier 1 service provider which is connected to Ericsson Communication Accelerator, and it is planned to go live this. So let's look at the turnkey use cases that can be offered, and it's not just limited to the SOHO and the micro business segment that we just discussed. So the others could be intelligent enterprise communication. That means we can enhance the service numbers with contextual communication or video to make them more interactive. Or UC seamless native mobility. That means we can extend VoLTE and native dialer experience to the service providers, unified communication customers. And I think that is the need of the hour also today, especially during the COVID times, when we see that when we use our mobile apps to dial into these UC systems, the experience is not that good. We can also enter new niches and find revenue sources, for example, in the IoT communication space, where we can add voice to one of these devices, to the IoT devices. And this will increase the value of your devices, and also there are plenty of use cases that can be then open up for the service providers. For example, elderly care, or a vending machine, or a smart light pole, or we've recently partnered with a connected scooter company around Sweden. And the last one was probably connecting devices and providing real-time communication to devices of the future in the wearable space. And one of the example is that we can have real-time video inside an AR session. So all these AR connected devices can also be marketed. So we have a lot more information about all this, and we will send them out to you after this call. So let's go to the next slide. So the big question now here is, what is needed in order to get there? So if we click now, so as you can see, it's a very easy 3-step process. Number 1, we connect to the Ericsson Communication Accelerator. Number 2, we define your commercial offering based on the microservices. And 3, you start onboarding your customers with self-service capabilities. So it's that easy to start generating revenue.
Thanks, Abhay. And let's see what questions do they have right now, and we are ready to answer any question.
Okay, perfect. So thank you very much to Chris, Vikas, and Abby for your presentations. I hope everyone found it insightful. We will now move on to the Q&A part of the webinar. So just a reminder to those who have questions for our presenters today, please enter them into the questions box now, and we'll endeavor to get through as many possible in today's session. And for the ones that we don't get to, we will include them in a Q&A write-up that we send out to all registrants. So please keep the questions coming. First up, we've received a question from Matthew directed at the Ericsson team. So his question is, you stated that up to 80% of the small companies are on consumer packages, then that the incremental for an operator is between roughly between 7 to 15 euros per user per month. If it's that much money, then why has this not been targeted before?
Thanks for the question. It's not that they have not targeted. It was targeted, but it was not successfully done, because it's not only offering the service, it's how you can offer in a good customer experience and using that retail channel. Many operators have tried it, but it's not there. So we say it's underserved. But now technology allows to do this thing. And when we say 7 to 15, we are saying the value you can get per month by providing the modular different services and providing in try and buy fashion, because that's not possible, very limited is possible right now. So that's why. So it was underserved, I would say. And since it's not provided, that's why there were operators just providing fixed mobile bundle plans to these segments. Thanks for.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question that was submitted around, and this is to all presenters here. So given that SOHOs and SMEs are very heterogeneous, because as you mentioned, and require more than just pure data analysis to understand the true needs of SME and SOHO companies, how should telcos approach the topic of segmentation within this market?
Shall I give a perspective there? I mean, I think that's absolutely right. I think they are very heterogeneous, and it's not easy to come up with a single solution. If you think about the consumer market, operators typically deal with 5 to 8 segments, and yet if you look at SMEs, there are a number of vertical industries there, and then as many people look at different company sizes, bands of company size. There is some logic to looking at bands of company size. I think the complexity of communication solutions does increase as you move from a micro through to a small, a medium, and up to a larger corporation. But I think what becomes difficult is trying to have those 3 or 4 strata based on size, and then have a segmentation looking at each vertical industry, which is kind of what you tend to do for larger corporates. You look at a particular, retail corporate or so on, and you tend to say, well, we will come up with ICT solutions in our global solutions or our larger corporate, larger enterprises segment, vertical unit, looking at those. I think it's much more difficult with SMEs. I think the way I would do it is probably split them by company size, because that is value, and then cluster together verticals that share common characteristics. So look at professional services, maybe look at retail and logistics, maybe look at those, and then run some qual and quant around those clusters, and that will then enable you to get down to a manageable number of segments that will enable you to position your solutions and your proposition in a more tailored way, without getting into the problems of having 30 segments, which is impossible for you to serve. So I think it is this trade-off between trying to get close to what they need and trying to get your messaging and your solution right for them, and what you can manage. And I would do it based on company size, and then maybe 4 or 5 clusters of verticals, and then test that with some research.
Great, thank you, Chris. Abby, Vikas, your thoughts?
Yeah, we agree with Chris completely on this one.
Okay, great. So I think we have another question here around which do you think that could be the 2 killer services that telcos could offer to SOHO and SME customers within richer communications? This could be specifically to SOHO or to SME. Vikas and Abby?
Yeah. So when we say the killer service, I will say not the killer service, but how you offer your overall service, basically. Are you offering what they really need? What kind of package are you saying? So as we say in the modular way, if you just solve their basic needs and give them in a good customer experience, so you sell, so with try and buy and self-care, and they can quickly configure it, use it. That will help. That will help a lot. And for the large segment, I will say it's provide them the user experience as close as to their normal consumer behavior and calling, which we showed in one of the slides. That will be there. Just the service will not make sense. Whole package will be the key thing in this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a good point. We tend within the telecoms community, industry, to look at products and services as features always being the answer. And actually, I had a look at a little bit of research that was done in 2018. So it's a couple of years old, but I think it's still quite valuable. It was done by Ofcom, the regulator in the UK. So it is UK focused, but I think it's probably quite valuable. And what they looked at, they were looking at, the research was on SMEs communications needs. And what they found was that actually most SMEs were unfamiliar with what VoIP was, had absolutely no idea what VoLTE was, and that we tend to think on the supply side about pushing another product out, but actually it's the wrong way of thinking. It's much more, I think, about, as Vikas said, about taking often what you've got and making it easy for them to understand, communicated clearly, offering them training, education, packaging solutions so they are appropriate for their particular need, and that plays back to the segmentation model. And I think configurability, the ability, once something is understood, that they can configure it for their needs. And I don't think there are either one, or in this case, the question was about two silver bullets. It's much more about execution. And I think time and time again, you see solutions that have worked, and it doesn't really matter whether they're in small or in large corporations, but particularly with small, it is their ability to be adopted easily and implemented easily and managed easily is what makes a difference. And at the moment, you know, what this piece of service is that these customers don't even know what, in many instances, what VoIP is or VoLTE is. So there is a long way between that and assuming that there is a single solution that is going to answer all their questions. It's about making it easy for them to adopt these solutions and use these solutions that are already there in terms of the functionality. It's about applying it for them and helping them use it in a more meaningful way. And I think that so I kind of echo what Vikas has said, and I would encourage you to have a look at this research if you're in a market that is relevant. And we can provide the links to all of the surveys we've used, and they will show you what countries are covered there and so on as well. So you'll see if it's the research is directly relevant to your market, or you need to be a little bit more cautious in terms of how you apply that.
Thanks, Chris. And I think a follow-on question from that is also relating back to the one of the statistics that you pointed out, around 2/3 of SMEs, you know, prioritizing faster, reliable communication systems. Why do you see that high demand for communications, or why do you believe you see? And what is the role of communications going back to some of the core challenges that SOHOs and SMEs face?
Well, I think when they're talking communications, I think it's not just telephony. I think they are seeing communication systems in this, fragment in the same way that as consumers, we have seen huge fragmentation in our communications. In the past, if we go back 15 years, you wanted to receive a message, it was text. If you're lucky, you might get an MMS to work, or it was voice. And now we have a whole plethora of social media and things those are the same challenges, I think, facing SMEs, because they see their larger counterparts, businesses, using social media effectively, using internet channels, using instant messaging, using chat bots, and using telephony as a key channel. And I think they struggle both internally with managing communications between their employees and between the communications between a customer and the organization. And they know that both that costs them productivity, but it also costs them hard money. And I think, Vikas alluded to missed calls, but it's not just missed calls, it's miscommunications of any sort, inbound. So I think they see, if you can't communicate effectively internally, you can't be productive. And if you can't communicate effectively with your customers, you can't add value to them and you can't extract value from them. So I think it's pretty fundamental. And I think they think it's a difficult world to manage this fragmentation of communication channels. And that's what they need to try and fix. That would be my take on it.
Thanks, Chris. And I guess, one of the things that a lot of us are, quite interested in is thinking about, how do you think the SME and the SOHO opportunity has changed between a few years back compared to before the current COVID-19 situation we find ourselves in, and post?
Well, I am one half. I'm slightly cut on this. The Ericsson guys may have a different view, but I'm slightly conflicted in that one half of me says that there are going to be some fundamental changes going forward. There is going to be an appreciation from businesses that they are less tied to offices. There's going to be appreciation from consumers that they are less tied to retail stores. So there's going to be a growth in online shopping, and therefore we are going to see some fundamental changes in the way people behave, both as employees and as customers, and that will have some impact on the communications for small businesses. It's going to become more disparate, and people are not going to be gathered in the same place than they were. The other half of me says, well, yeah, is that really true? Hasn't that already happened? And aren't we in a very unusual situation? And to some extent, we're going to return to where we are. And I guess the balance between the two says, I think that the pandemic will have accelerated a bit what is already happening, which is we are seeing this virtualization of companies more, and that SMEs and SOHOs are no different. They are probably less well set up than their larger counterparts to cope with that, and therefore I think there is an opportunity for operators to solve that problem for them, to overcome the challenges that they face in managing a world where there are going to be people behaving in different ways, and they are going to become more, quote unquote, socially distanced, at least for the foreseeable future. But I think a lot of this was already happening to some extent. I don't know what Vikas and Abe think.
I agree, but I will also say that this is an opportunity to provide some services to the SOHOs and SMEs so they can increase their B2c communication towards their customer and provide better customer experience. So let's say when a customer of SME is calling them and they need something because that customer can't visit or want to restrict his visit, can something you provide on the same call, like interactively, you can enhance that call to video or to share something, or to other kind of services in that same, provide better experience, thinking that this remote behavior or social distancing behavior may continue long, and also so these kinds of telcos must start preparing and providing these kind of services.
I also believe that, like I mentioned, that it's important that nowadays when we are not going to office that much, and a lot of us are using our mobile phones, that the experience of using the mobile phones when calling into these unified communication systems, that needs to be really good. So service providers had that chance and to provide VoLTE and like native dialing experience, so that there are no call drops, there are no poor audio quality, lags, and so on and so forth. So in that respect also, I think there's a chance that if we can extend VoLTE to these customers.
Great, thank you. And I think we have time for one final question here. So I guess this question, to read this through, this is kind of around how can or should telcos differentiate themselves in comparison to other types of solution partners, given that telcos in many ways are household names and have certain reputations with a lot of different enterprises, including the SMEs and SOHOs. Does that give them the upper hand, do you think, or does that it also become, in a way, a hindrance, given that some of the struggles in the past in addressing this segment?
So from our side, like, we believe that these SMEs and so are still operator customers. They are using their voice services, their data services. What operators are unable to provide it is scaled down service to their needs, and also to using the normal channels with these companies are using. And that's why, since they are unable to get these value services, that's why they are going to alternate services like different kind of OTT services. But that lead to poor customer experience for them. No doubt they are using it, but it's poor customer experience. Example, let's say if I am on using some OTT call, and I'm in very important discussion with my customer, with one of my customer, and then I get a normal phone call on my phone, one of the session will going to drop. So that kind of integrated communication experience, that can, as a small add-on, that operators can start providing it to their customers, because these are already your customer. You just have to provide what they need in a modular way, package it correctly, help them in try and buy session option, and then they should be able to use it and start configuring. They should not wait for migrating their services so long. So just start and using it. That's from our perspective. That's what we believe.
Yeah, I mean, briefly, I'm conscious of time. I mean, I think there's a double-edged sword here. I mean, telcos have the enviable position of having relationships with these companies in a way that many providers don't. They are trying to break in and sell a solution having had no relationship. I think the flip side of that is that telcos, although they are trusted, they're not necessarily hugely credible in terms of being able to provide advanced technology solutions of the kind that SMEs feel they need. So I think the need for telcos is to reframe their relationship with SMEs and to demonstrate through marketing, and more importantly through the solutions they provide, that they really are and can, they can enhance that relationship, not be a utility provider in the same way they think of their gas, their water, their electricity, but actually a value-added provider to their business. And I think that is what telcos need to focus on, because at the moment they are extracting value, delivering value, but it's limited, and there is a pent-up demand for more from the SME community.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, I'm aware we're at the top of the hour, so one final thank you to our presenters today. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today's session. You will be receiving the recording and the slides shortly today or tomorrow to watch back or to share with colleagues, and a Q&A for potentially, hopefully next week. And if you do have any other questions that you'd like our presenters to answer, or any questions about some of the content that we've shared today, please feel free to email us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.